the ever-pressing issue of gender-based violence and the need to protect all women and girls here in Trinidad and Tobago. Over the past 3 days, we have seen a vigil held in front of the Red House. We have also seen protests that have spanned over a few days as well. And the activists are asking for change and for justice. Joining me this morning to speak about this is the Executive Director of PMSL, and that is Diana Mahabir-Wyatt. Good morning and welcome.
Morning. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us this morning. Now, there's a call to legalize non-lethal weapons for women and the strict implementation of the Sex Offenders Registry. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I hope that I understand the protest and the need for it, and I join with it, of course. I don't march anymore, but I went down to the savannah and I watched in awe as hundreds of people dressed in black marched around the savannah as far as you could see, men, women, and children. Whether or not pepper spray is going to help women in situations in which Andrea found herself, I don't know. I have no experience of using pepper spray. But just from a practical point of view, if I have a canister of anything and I have it in my handbag, if somebody attacks me, I have to first go into my handbag, open it, get out the pepper spray, and try to defend myself with it. When vicious murders like what happened with Andrea's, you may not have time to do it. And once you get it out, somebody bigger and stronger can grab it away from you and use it on you. I think that if we are going to use self-defense weapons like pepper spray, we also have to have training for people who are going to use them. I think self-defense training is something that all young women should undergo as well. And I think that is really important. I don't think in every case it's going to save your life, but it'll give you a better chance. The other thing, of course, is that what I am most concerned about is prevention. And I know that there are other countries, and I'm thinking specifically of Sweden and Finland. They're a different culture, but some 80 or 90 years ago, they were known for their violence against women and the devaluation of women, the way it happens here. But in every school, there, from pre-primary to primary to secondary to university, there are compulsory training sessions about the respect for other people and about human rights. And they have very little domestic violence now. It has gone down about 300 or 400%.
Oh.
I think we need that in Trinidad because a lot of the assumption that violence against women is permissible comes from domestic violence in the home. That's where you learn it. And children who are accustomed to seeing their father beat their mother or a senior male figure, excuse me, a senior male figure, father, stepfather, grandfather, beat the females in the house, they grow up thinking that's all right. And I know many women who grew up that way who assumed that marriage meant a license to beat on the part of the male, and who grew up in villages throughout Trinidad where it was a norm. And if women assume it was a norm, then men assume it's a norm as well, and a means of getting whatever it is you want. We've got to stop that. We've got to change the culture. This is a very patriarchal culture, and we all know it's a very violent culture. We are known in the Caribbean as the domestic violence capital of the Caribbean, worse than in any other country. And one of the ways in which you deal with that is through education. The other thing, and it would not have helped in Andrea's case, but we still haven't got to the bottom of that. The other thing is that there should be government-supported shelters for victims of domestic violence in every county, supported by the regional county, whatever you call them. And I was going to say commission, but it's not a commission. You know what I mean? The regional authorities.
Regional corporation.
They can be, thank you, they can be run by the NGOs, but NGOs don't have the money to be able to afford to build them and to support them. And NGOs have been trying for years. I mean, I can remember going back to when we were setting up the shelter in Port of Spain, and that was in the 1980s. That's a long time ago.
Yep, it really is.
And that was because, and in South, of course, there was the shelter for battered women there, set up by Radhika Seth and the Seroptimus group. We shouldn't have to do that. People, even when it's reported to the police in those days, it was regarded as not being all that important. It was a man-woman thing. But inevitably, what happens is that the women and children are the ones who have to leave their home, the only home the children have known, because a man's home is his palace. But where is a woman's home? Surely that a woman's home is also the place where she and the children have a right to be safe.
Yep.
And to escape from the problems of the world.
Yep, I agree with
I
you.
think that,
Diana, the implementation of these measures and the call for it and whatever, it's all very reactive. What do you think that the powers that be, the people who have the authority to make these changes in legislation and the like, what do you think they should be looking toward right now, rather than waiting for another situation to occur?
Well, I've just mentioned, I mean, there is no way that the police by themselves can prevent violence. Don't forget, gender-based violence also includes male on male. Yeah. Because men have a gender as well. And it also includes women on children. Much of the domestic violence that takes place is women on children as well. And especially during the pandemic, when you're more or less locked in a small apartment with 2 screaming children, it is extremely hard on anybody to maintain their balance. My argument has been for a long time that we have to have the Serval type education in everywhere, from primary schools, pre-primary, right through to tertiary schools, because people have to learn not to use violence as a means of getting what they want. And this has to be a preventative measure, not a punitive one.
Agreed. Agreed. And I want to thank you so much for your thoughts and for your time this morning, Diana. Thank you for joining us, and we'll continue the conversation here on the Now Morning Show. But for now, I want to thank you again for your time, and we are going to take a short break and come back with much more. That was Diana Mahabir-Wyatt, who is the Executive Director at PMSL Limited. We come back with much more. Stay with us.